President of the NTUC, Johnny Pavia, members of the various trade unions, brothers and sisters, and distinguished visitors from abroad. It is difficult, if you have not lived through, as I have, over the last 50 years, to imagine the roller coaster ride we had in the first 15 years, without which we would never have got here. Many people tonight I've seen, whose faces I remember, without whose valiant efforts and their contribution to the role, we would never have had the kind of peaceful industrial cooperation, not just good relations, but cooperation between workers, employers, and the government. And I would like to explain briefly how that came about. But it is a remarkable story because no other country has achieved this, where we brought the labor union into the collective decision-making process and ensured that they got their fair share of what the economy produces. I began my political life by representing trade unions. I was a young legal assistant at the firm of Laycock and Ong, and the postmen were about to go on strike. I was asked to look after them. He never imagined what would happen. He thought I'd be a lawyer and there'd be some arguments with the bosses and that would be the end of the matter. But they went on strike, and for 2 weeks the union ding-donged in the press against the commissioner of a post representing the colonial government on the merits of the case. I drafted their statements and sung public sentiments towards the unions, and the colonial government had to give higher wages, better terms and conditions of service, and, amongst others, ridiculous things, the removal of thick printed red stripes on their trousers, making them look like circus attendants. It's because they didn't want the postman to use these trousers during off-duty. And because of this success, I was briefed by the Clerical Union of Post and Telegraphs for their demands. That went to arbitration, and the union won. Consequently, I became advisor to innumerable trade unions, English-speaking, Chinese-speaking, Malay-speaking. When I fought my first election in 1955, I chose Tanjong Pagar because that was where the postmen were based, their quarters were, and also where the dock workers were, whom I represented. So I won easily. I have maintained my relationship with the unions, and as Prime Minister, I have always been mindful of the interests of the workers and their unions, many of whose faces I've seen tonight, whose names, some I remember, but some my memory has to be jogged. But sitting beside me is Oscar Olivero and Mahmoud Awang, and I can see Eric Chong there. And they were part of this transformation. Together, we developed a tripartite relationship, and we had a National Wages Council with the advice of Dr. Albert Vincemius, a Dutch advisor to the UNDP who was sent out to help us. On his own, he came back every year, year after year, because he approved of and was attracted by our practical approach to problems. Today, I'm happy to join you in celebrating the 50th anniversary of the NTUC. Those of you who are alive in the 1950s will remember that the NTUC nearly lost to SATU, Singapore Association of Trade Unions, led then by communist leftists. They were mainly Chinese-speaking unions. Fortunately, they lost, or the history of Singapore would have been for the worse. In government, I've never forgotten that it is in the interest of workers and their unions that we must strive for growth and development. In other words, growth is meaningless unless it is shared by the workers and shared not only directly in wage increases, but indirectly in better homes, better schools, better hospitals, better playing fields, a healthier environment for their families and for their children to grow up. I'm glad that since I stood down as Prime Minister in 1990, successive Prime Ministers, first Goh Chok Tong, now Lee Hsien Loong, both carried out the same policies: pro-worker, pro-trade unions. We changed the attitude of antagonism by employers towards employers to one of fair bargaining, where the account books of the employers, if necessary, are open for inspection by the arbitration court. This led to cooperation in the National Wages Council with the government, the unions, and employers. This is a unique system which has served us well. It has stopped unions from being adversaries to squeeze employers out of business. Instead, they become part of a team with the government and the employers in a tripartite system which has brought benefits to all, workers, employers, and government. Because industrial peace creates confidence, and confidence increases investments, both our own and foreign. From the early 1980s, we put trade union leaders on key statutory boards so that they will understand and shape the policies of these boards. This is especially valuable for our public organizations to have the voice of the unionists on public policies. And they were our channels for feedback and help to refine our policies. It also made union leaders take ownership of these policies so that they mobilize their fellow unionists and their workers to make these policies successful. Since 1980, unionists also played a key role in the productivity movement. They decided that their objective should be enlarging the pie rather than fight for a bigger slice of a small pie. The most significant transformation of the trade union movement was the modernization seminar in 1969. It was proposed by the late Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Goh Keng Swee, and the late President of the NTUC, Devan Nair, then jointly organized it. That modernization seminar extended the activities of the unions to embrace the economic, social, and recreational life of the workers. NTUC set up cooperatives. The first was NTUC Income, offering low-wage workers affordable insurance. Then NTUC Comfort, enabling unlicensed taxi drivers to become owners of taxis and get a decent living. In 1973, NTUC Welcome, now known as NTUC fair price, put a cap on private sector businesses as to how high they can mark up their prices. Other cooperatives were subsequently set up. NTUC Healthcare, Choice Homes, Elder Care, Food Care, Income, Media and Thrift and Loan. Trade union leaders were in charge of running these cooperatives. This gave NTUC leaders personal experience as managers so that they better understood the problems of management. And because they were cooperatives, their prices were lower than that of the ordinary businesses and helped workers to save money. Our trade union leaders and their members have become agents of change. Unlike the old British and European trade unions, they accepted new technology and new ways of working. They helped workers overcome the risk of unemployment due to the increasing use of computers and other new technologies. Together with the government, they set up computer appreciation classes for the workers. As a result, workers did not fear becoming redundant because of computers or to have their pay reduced. Instead, the training and the use of computers helped workers increase their productivity and their wages. Together with the unions, the government also set up best classes to improve the command of the English language of our workers. And today the English language is a common language and working language of Singapore, uniting all our people, making it easier for leaders to talk at one time and be understood by everybody. And so of the 1960s and 70s, where every speech I made, as you can see from the old films, were made in several languages: Malay, Hokkien, English, and even some words of Tamil like Manakam. They ran a range of courses to give the workers different skills. I'm honored to be your guest of honor this evening. We all remember the close relationships between the NTUC, the trade unions, the PAP, and the government. I wish you more years of active work, especially the younger trade union leaders who have taken over, and hope that you will work with the government and the employers in equal terms. You have helped to create jobs and upgrade skills so that our workers will enjoy a better standard of living and a quality of life. They have done so for the last 50 years, and there's no reason why we cannot do so for the next 50 years. The NTUC challenge now is to keep up with the fast pace of economic transformation. The world changes with technology at a fast rate as new technology introduces new lifestyles, new ways of communication, opens up people's horizons, and therefore change becomes faster and faster. And you have to help our young workers, including the old workers, professionals and rank and file, to secure better jobs, better pay, and live a better life for many more years to come. Finally, happy 50th anniversary NTUC. Thank you.